Hey everyone, welcome to Queerly Recommended. I am Tara Scott, and I'm here as always with my co-host Chris Bryant.
Hello, and welcome to episode 22, and I have nothing clever to say about the number 22, other than it's even and it makes me happy.
There you go.
Okay. So, since last time, we found out that the Scott family had COVID.
Yep.
How are things now? What's going on?
You know what? It's a lot better. We're all out of our isolation windows. We're all feeling way, way, way better. Unfortunately, I still have a lingering cough. Neil has a weird time with taste and smell, and everybody's still a little bit tired, but it's so nice to be able to leave the house.
Yay! That is good.
We went for a couple of family walks last weekend, and it was like the best walks I've ever been on in the whole of my life. Because that was the one thing, like all I wanted to do while we were quarantining was just go walk around the block. So we did.
You could do that. It wasn't hard for the lungs or anything.
No, it wasn't hard for the lungs at all. I ended up further re-screwing up my foot a little bit, but that's okay. I'm going to physio. It's going to be better. I'm going to be able to walk pain-free soon.
Good.
Soon. But you also had COVID reach your family, as you shared with your patrons on Patreon. How is your sister doing now?
So here's the story. My sister, her work, it's a really great place where she works, and they really encourage, self-help, self-awareness, self-healing, and they allow people to go on sabbaticals. And so my sister has been planning this sabbatical, this 6-week sabbatical for years. And finally, other countries opened up. She was double vaxxed, and she's really very good about masking. Kind of like the rest of us, and like, don't touch me, get away from me, oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so she went and she spent 2 weeks in Turkey, and then she went to Greece and was in bed for 2 weeks because she got COVID really bad. And she did not reach out for the family. I think I said that she didn't talk to us for a couple days, 3 days, until I reached out. I'm like, you really need to check in with mom and dad. Mm-hmm. And then she called and said she had COVID. She didn't want to tell anybody. So I didn't tell anybody because I was kind of keeping it, every day I would worry about my sister. Is she okay? Is she okay? I mean, it was really bad. She dropped 30 pounds. How do you lose 30 pounds in 8 days? COVID,
that is wild. How you
do it. Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah, so then I finally put something out on my Patreon page, and one of my patrons reached out. She's like, Chris, I'm in Greece. I'm in Athens, where my sister is. And she's like, I can run your sister over medicine, drinks, food, anything she needs. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. I totally forgot that my friend, she had moved from Estonia down to Greece. And, the good news is by then my sister was doing a lot better. She was sitting up. She was able to eat cottage cheese and mashed potatoes. Mm-hmm. So then I posted it on Facebook. I'm like, this is how awesome my Patreon family is. Everybody reaches out and everybody, I love my Patreon page. That's mm-hmm. a whole different story. But then somebody else who is in Greece, a reader, reached out on Messenger and said the same thing. Look, I'm in Athens. I can do anything. I can, take your sister anything she needs. And I just thought that was so sweet. I mean, I love the community we're in because it's a big, giant world, but we're a small group and mm-hmm. very, very supportive. So the good news is my sister is better, and she just had her blood test today, mm-hmm. which means she can fly home. She was negative. So she can fly home, and she's just like, I just want to go home. I want to be in my bed. I just want to heal at home. Mm-hmm. So she still has a lot of the COVID effects, but she's no longer positive. She's not going to be able to transmit it to anybody. She just is tired and wants to come home. So it's going to be a rough Monday, Tuesday for her, but that's when she's coming.
Yes. Well, thank goodness she was vaccinated.
Yes, for sure. She actually said, she goes, I feel like had I not been vaccinated, I for sure would have died. That's how bad she felt. And my sister's not a whiny baby. Mm-hmm. She's not a whiny baby at all. And I got mad at her because I'm like, this is the second time I almost lost you. Stop doing this to me.
It's a bit rude.
I know.
It's not a good pattern.
It's not a good pattern. So I'm done stress eating for the week. So mm-hmm. Get her home so I can relax a little bit before my big trip.
Right. Because when this episode drops, I mean, we always record about a week and a half before the episodes go up. But when this goes up, you are already going to be at P-Town at Women's Week. What are you going to be doing there? And where can people find you if they're also going to be there and want to check out your public appearances?
Yes, I'm excited. I have been waiting for this for years, literally years. And I have actually kind of sequestered myself. I'm working from home for 2 weeks. I am staying in my bubble so that I stay safe. And I'm driving to P-Town. So all of our events through Bold Strokes Books, our events are at the library. But I'm also doing reading at Nappy's Restaurant with a couple of other writers from different publications. That's kind of a thing. And so I'll be at Nappy's on Friday, and the schedule is up everywhere. And for sure I'll be doing some readings and some panels and some question and answers, and all of those will happen at the Provincetown Library, which is like smack dab on Commercial, and you can't miss it. It's a beautiful, big, yellowish white building. I'm excited.
That sounds so nice. I haven't gone anywhere since February of last year.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm super jealous.
Yes. The only place I have been down to my sister's lake house a couple times, and KB Draper's lake house a couple of times, and that's it. So I haven't really seen anybody. It's all been like safe, small spaces. And this time I get to see people I haven't seen in forever, and I'm going to cry the whole time. I literally am going to cry. I talked to Ray, and we both decided we're just going to like burst into tears.
Just embrace it.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you see two people bawling their eyes out together,
yes, it's going to be
it's Chris Bryant and Rachel Spangler.
For sure. And I cry at everything. If I walk in and I see somebody crying, I'm crying. Even if I don't know the reason, I'm crying.
Oh, the empathy crying.
Oh,
is
horrible.
So bad. I know. I'm the same way too. I used to be able to watch anything and then not cry. And then I watch something where it's like, it could be like somebody having happy tears in a movie. And then I'm crying too. And I'm like, it's just so beautiful.
I cry at everything. I cry at sporting events. Who cries at sporting events?
Oh.
Me.
Well, but if it's like a big moment.
Yeah.
And you know they've worked really hard for it. That's why sports movies I don't watch them very often, and I'm not particularly interested in them. But when I do see them and it's like the team, they come together and do this thing, and then I'm just like a puddle because it's so beautiful that they achieved their dream.
Like Rudy. Oh my God, everybody cries at Rudy.
Right?
Field of Dreams. What else? Oh, Invincible. Come on.
Yeah. There was another football movie that happened with for me, and I cannot remember what it is.
Oh, the one with Sandra Bullock, maybe. I can't think of what it's called. You would think I've been dropping them like name dropping, movie
You're
dropping.
The football fan. We actually timed this recording so you could watch your football game.
It's like we gotta do it early because the Chiefs are playing at noon. So let's get this going.
Yeah, we are not.
I can't think of what it's called. I can't remember. But
I think that might be the one though.
Yeah. Gosh darn it. And then as soon as we stop recording, or like right in the middle of your recommendation, I'll blurt it out because it'll come to me.
Oh, I had a moment like that. What day is it today? Okay, 2 days ago, I had a moment like that. I met up for coffee with a couple of people from work, just like an outdoor coffee thing. And then I was talking to one of them, and I was telling him about somebody in our family circle who is Mennonite, and he's throwing out last names like, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? I'm like, oh, no, I know what it is. And then I look, and she's the one person in my contacts that doesn't have the last name in there. And I'm like, son of a bitch, yeah.
Sally.
So I was like, whatever. So we part ways, and I have walked literally maybe 30 feet from where we parted when her last name popped in my head. And I was like, come on.
And I looked it up, and it's The Blind Side.
Yeah, I think that's the one.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But, all right, so since the last episode, there was another lovely, beautiful, sweet, anonymous soul who supported us through Ko-fi. For anyone who is not familiar, it is a site where you can financially support your favorite content creators. You can do it as a one-off. You can do it as a recurring, whatever you like. We always appreciate it when that happens because that basically pays for all the things that run the show. And if you feel so inclined, please feel free. We put the link in the show notes. If you don't feel inclined, that's okay. We still love you too. If you would want to even just tell a friend that you think might be interested in the show, we would super duper appreciate that as well.
Yes, because we need more listeners, and we appreciate all of them. And anytime we get a tip, it really does. I didn't realize how expensive it really is to run a podcast until you went over the numbers with me. So that was a surprise. But okay, so in other news, it is listener question time.
Mm-hmm.
We have such a love-hate relationship with listener question time. We love them, but sometimes I have a hard... Okay, so correction. I have a love-hate relationship with listener question time because some of the questions are really hard. Like, I seriously can't answer them. Mm-hmm. So, one that we have, Fangirl Loves Pizza asks, if y'all could greenlight any queer book into a movie, which book? And who would be your dream cast? So,
yeah. This is a tough one, for sure. I would say... Oh, shit. I mean, there's a handful of them I would absolutely love to see. The one that came to mind first for me was One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. Anybody who follows me knows that when I fall in love with a book, I'm just going to keep talking about that book over and over again. So yeah, you're going to keep hearing about that book. I don't know who I would cast, though, because I don't watch or follow enough media to know who the 20 to 25-year-olds. I am like a 95-year-old, 42-year-old. I just don't know. But then I also think, Anna Burke's speculative fiction and any of Anna Burke's books. I mean, her contemporary romances would be fine, but like her book Nottingham, which is like the queer retelling of Robin Hood, would be freaking fabulous. What is her Beauty and the Beast retelling?
Thorn.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thorn. Because my brain kept going Huntress. And I'm like, no, that is a Melinda Lowe book. Huntress. No, not that one. And that's the only word my brain was supplying. So again, my brain continuing to be a total dickhead.
Great book.
Not helpful. And then also her Compass Rose books. Like those would be fabulous. I know when we were talking about this too, I cracked a joke because Kris and I were talking. We were like, geez, how are we going to answer this? And I said, okay, well, what if they did fried green tomatoes again, but actually made it gay this time?
Just think about how much freedoms we would have had 20 years ago had we seen this movie with more gayness, more queerness to it.
It would have been incredible. It would have really meant it already, I think, in talking with other people, meant so much to so many people.
Right. And I think it could have done so much. They for sure could have done a much better job with the movie.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
So this is one of those love-hate questions. I love it, and yet I hate it because it's so hard to answer. So this is when I got into reading lesfic, the one book that to me played out as a movie because it was so well written. And I know I've talked about this before, but it's just, it's one of those where I could see it because the description was it was just so good. And it's C.F. Frizzell's Stick McLaughlin books, The Prohibition Years. It was the first book. And there's only a 2-book, kind of a continuation. But the first book, by far, is it's like a movie in your head. And I always call it a movie because in my head, it's so visual that it is a movie. And I'm like, no, I mean the book. So I'm going to go with that. And as far as like who could play the roles, it's several stages of Stick's life, how Stick became, like an orphan on the streets type thing, and then a teenager, and then an adult. And so there's too many. It's almost like a lifetime going on in this book. So a bunch of different people could play Stick. So I can't really answer that because again, like all the actresses, like I find attractive and really enjoy watching and or mid-30s, maybe in their 40s. So trying to find somebody to play, I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't know a lot of 20-year-old actresses. I just don't.
No, see, that's my problem. All the ones that I think of are like the youngest for sure in their 30s, but they're probably in their 40s or 50s.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
We can't put Kate Blanchett as a 25-year-old.
You're right. We can't put,
or sure. Charlize Theron. We can't.
Yes!
Sorry.
I know. So, well, we're going to have to wait until we learn more about the 20s, as they come up, the actresses in their 20s, as they make bigger, bolder, badass movies that are mainstream, queer.
It's true. The only one I could think of maybe is Florence Pugh, but I've only seen her in the Black Widow film. So now I'm just like, well, let's just put her in everything because I really liked her in that.
True. Yeah, and I'm really bad at young actresses' names because I'm thinking, okay, who's the one who did the updated Laura Croft? Who was that? See, I don't know, but she would be good in something.
I didn't know that there was an updated Laura Croft.
Well, okay, so the original Angelina Jolie, hello.
Yes.
Okay, but then there was another one, and her, I totally picture her. Know. Yeah, okay. I didn't know if you even knew about the Angelina Jolie one.
No, and I mean, I'm such a curmudgeon that when, like, Timothée Chalamet's name kept showing up all over Twitter, I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? What are they talking about? So I don't know. When I was growing up, I was always like, when I'm older, I'm not going to be like these older people. And now that I'm older, I'm like, fuck that. I'm leaning in. I'm just going to be extra curmudgeonly and refuse to learn what everybody else is talking about.
That's funny.
I like.
Oh no, I'm like, what's trending? What is trending?
I know. This is what I love about us. Like,
we're opposites almost.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's so true.
That's funny.
Oh, so Kris, what have you been watching lately? I know it's a big writing time for you, so you're probably not doing a ton of reading.
I'm not doing a ton of reading. Yeah, plus I have to get ready for P-Town. And so, like, all the writers who are there, you see on their social media feeds are like, oh, I'm practicing my reading for P-Town. And I'm like, how am I the only person who waits like 10 minutes before to actually practice and pick a scene to read? I mean, I have been with this book for a year at least. You know, not to mention, like, the book that I'm going to be reading from is going to be Not Guilty. And I literally was on that journey for a year, through edits, through writing. I know that book forward and backward.
What scene are you going to read?
I have no idea. Like, I need to find, and I'm going to be reading at least 3 different times. So I have to find 3 different scenes in this book that doesn't give too much away, where I don't have to say pussy and other words in front of a bunch of people that maybe aren't used to that. That's why I write under Brit Writer for that kind of stuff, you know, those kind of scenes and stuff, erotica, because I have my Chris Bryant fans that like the sweet romance, and then, you know, I wanted to try a little bit rawer stuff, and so Brit Writer. So now I'm going to show up as Brit Writer, and I'm going to, you know, Chris Bryant fans are going to be like, what? So I will have to make it so that it's sexy, but not too sexy, and I'll go through those eventually. I mean, I'll go through the book at some point and maybe, you know, mark a few scenes.
You're going to be driving to P-Town, listening to your own book, trying to choose a passage.
I know. It's, yeah, I really don't know. It's hard because it just is. No idea. So.
Good luck.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. But yeah, so I have been, of course, I'm still on my Walking Dead season finale series. I'm still watching that. And I'm still watching that freaking train wreck that is turning into the L Word, Generation Q. You know, I don't even know what to do. I don't know what to do. I have to watch it. Like, I'm the kind of person who's committed to things. And I have to finish it. Very rarely do I stop watching something because I'm so far in that I might as well finish it to the end of the season at least. So,
I kind of feel like life is too short. I also don't finish books that I don't like.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess that's true. Maybe for books. And sometimes series or movies, especially if they're like zombie or apocalyptic.
Yeah.
I don't have time to watch really bad movies. I started a movie that was so bad that I was like, yeah, no, I can't even do it. It was a 2.9 out of 10 on Amazon. And I'm like, it can't be that bad. It has like Tom.
It was.
So let me tell you, they had like a big actor, Tom Sizemore. He's a big actor, right? I mean, everybody kind of.
He's notable.
He's notable. So, yeah, so I'm still working through the L Word, Generation Q, but I'm getting kind of pissed off about it. So, but I will watch it finished. But.
To the end of the season or to the end of the series? Or is this the final season?
I don't know. I really don't know. For sure, at least until the end of the season. And then we'll see how I feel. Because I still am invested in Bet Porter.
Oh, yeah.
But I think she's the only one anymore. Everybody else is just like, I can't with them.
Well, that's
I just
fair.
can't. Yeah. So we'll just see, you know. And so I did it. Guess what I did?
What did you do?
I promised everybody that I was going to start Christmas movies, and I did.
Woo! And what?
So Well, here's the reason. So, like, Lifetime just announced that they have their first mainstream lesbian holiday movie called Under the Christmas Tree. I don't know if you saw that on...
No,
yeah. So that was a big thing that happened. So, in honor of my love of holiday movies and lesbians, I decided to watch the incredibly cheesy movie on Tello called Season of Love.
Okay.
So,
I remember hearing about this one a lot.
Yes,
you had been fighting it?
I had been fighting it because I heard really bad things about it. Like, it wasn't great, but yay, we have a lesbian movie.
Mm-hmm.
But as an ERPer, I had to watch it. I finally said, okay, I'm going to do it because Dominique Provost-Chockley, I always mispronounce her name, she's in it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and watch this movie. And here's a funny thing. I have a really awfully awkward social moment with Dominique. I had in real life. So, and there are people who are listening to this podcast now who were there at the time.
Okay.
That this horrible, socially awkward moment happened in my life. So we're at dinner and we're at the table. Dom's at our table talking to us. And she kind of goes around to the table and we talk about her, or we talk about ourselves to her, you know, tell her who we are, what we do. And I don't know why I did this. I turned into Ross from Friends and I started talking to her in a British accent.
No.
Yes, I did.
Kris,
and
why?
I was so nervous and I was just, I panicked and I don't, you know, I love British accents. I love like pretending like I have them.
You do.
And I slipped into a British accent and like, I don't know why. And it's so embarrassing that I'm sharing this story, but I did it. And yeah, so anyway, so back to the movie. Was it a good movie? No, not really.
Okay.
Is the acting superb? Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. But it was, you know, because I had a really rough 2 weeks, and I started.
You did.
I did, and so I just needed a feel good movie, and you know, I am more of a Hallmark kind of girl rather than Lifetime, because Hallmark is like sugar and spice and everything nice, whereas Lifetime is love story gone wrong with a stalker and a kidnapping and a hospital stay by one or two of the leads. Even though they both are considered like happy love stories. I just feel like Lifetime goes down a really dark path.
Oh, yeah.
And Hallmark is all fluff. And so I'm more on the Hallmark level. And this movie is very Hallmarky. It's just the acting was really bad. Very bad. I was surprised at how bad it was.
Oh. Well.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of never know with indie filmmaking what you're going to get.
But I mean,
sometimes
I'm just saying, you have somebody who's like pulling, you know, this is kind of like Tom Sizemore. You think, you know, there's an actor who has been in a lot of things that they know their way in front of a camera, but apparently directors are really underappreciated because I feel like, you know, some of the actors are really taking leads and cues from the director. So, and that makes it a much better movie.
Was it at least cute?
It was super cute, and it was so nice to watch this movie after the shit show that is the L Word Generation Q. And it deals with, you know, the same situations. You have these, you know, queer couples, and they try to get together, or they're trying to get together, or this person falls in love with this person. And so, I mean, it's fun to watch, and it's good to get into the Christmas spirit. So that's what I have been watching. So. What about you? I know, that's a lot. What about you? What have you been reading and or watching?
So last night, Neil and I checked out Everybody's Talking About Jamie. It's a new film that was released, I think a couple weeks ago on Amazon Prime. And it's based on the true story of this boy in the UK. He's gay and he knows that he wants to be a drag queen, and he decides that he wants to go, not only that, he wants to go to prom in drag. And much like, not totally like, but sort of like what you were saying with Season of Love, I was really hopeful for this one, especially, you know, Richard E. Grant is in it, and he plays an aging drag queen who puts Jamie into drag for the first time, and so is kind of his drag mother. And it's a movie.
It's a queer movie.
Say that it's definitely a queer movie. I think I somehow missed the fact that, so it's based on a true story, but it's based on a musical that played at the West End that was based on a true story. And so they kind of took that musical and they adapted it for screen. And unfortunately, the music was my least favorite parts. And like, there's a lot of songs in it.
Bummer.
But there's one song in particular, and the way they did it, like, it's not even the song itself, but what they did for that part was really, like, just stunning and so beautiful and so well done. It's almost worth checking out for this part, or just fast forward to this part where it shows it's Richard E. Grant singing kind of about his past, and because he's, in his, I don't know, he's supposed to be in his 60s or something like that now. And so when he's singing, it's all old videos. It's like all old camcorder footage of like him at drag shows and stuff like that. And then you start to realize, oh, because it's in the 80s, oh, okay, there's this person who has AIDS. And then you realize, it's his partner. And of course, I mean, anything with like gay men in the 80s, there's a decent chance. And so you see some of like, Princess Diana and how she used to spend time, they have footage of her with these like gay men who clearly have AIDS, and it brings in the Freddie Mercury thing dying. And so it was like really like, I got a little teary at that part, and that part was really beautiful. Sure, but the rest of it, I actually really liked the young man who played Jamie. I thought did a fabulous job. Actually, I should have looked up to see how that person identifies, because they might be non-binary. I don't know for sure. Right. But honestly, like, did a really good job. It wasn't a hit for me. It wasn't a total miss, but I probably won't watch it again. So I don't know. I think it's worth trying anyway. And if you already have Amazon Prime, then you have access to it. You don't have to pay extra to see it or anything like that. So I think that's one of those, like, your mileage may vary kinds of things. But otherwise, I've been reading. So I've been reading The Headmistress by Milena McKay. I started reading this book because I got FOMO, because so many of my fellow reviewers at the Lesbian Review have been talking about how freaking amazing this book is. And so I was like, okay, fine. It's time for me to check it out. And it's told from the perspective of this young teacher. And when I say young, I don't mean like, I don't think she's like 22 or anything like that, but I do think she's in her 20s. And she's a teacher at this like rich, well, is it rich? I don't know. I'm still fairly early into it. She's a teacher at a private school in New England, and the kind of school that's like clearly supposed to be pretty fancy. And they find out that the board is kicking out the current headmistress, and they're bringing in a new headmistress. And kind of as this is happening at the beginning of each chapter, she's thinking about the last time she had sex with somebody, which was like a few months prior on a trip to New York City. And then guess who the new headmistress is?
I think I know where this is going.
Yes. So good. So good. So I'm only about 10% into it. So I don't really know kind of, but like I looked on Goodreads, and I think like something like 400 people have rated it, and it has like a 4.67 rating on Goodreads, which is like unreal. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that goes. And then I'm also reading a book called The Lost Girls by Sonja Hartl, and I'm really enjoying this one as well. I think I'm about 20% in.
Okay, what's it about? Yeah.
This is a book. It is like a queer vampire revenge story.
Ooh.
I stumbled across it on NetGalley, and they never approved my request, and I just paid my own real money for it because I had to. This is one of the few blurbs that I went, oh. And I usually just talk generally about what a book is, but because that blurb got me so hard, I'm going to share the blurb for this one.
Okay.
Holly Liddell has been stuck with crimped hair since 1987 when she agreed to let her boyfriend Elton turn her into a vampire. But when he ditches her at a gas station a few decades into their eternity together, she realizes that being young forever actually means working graveyard shifts at Taco Bell, sleeping in seedy motels and being supernaturally compelled to follow your ex from town to town, at least until Holly meets Elton's other exes. It seems that Holly isn't the only girl Elton seduced into this wretched existence. He turned Ida in 1921, then Rose in 1954, and he abandoned them both before Holly was even born. Now Rose and Ida want to kill him before he can trick another girl into eternal adolescence, and they'll need Holly's help to do it. And once Holly starts falling for Elton's vulnerable new conquest, Parker, she'll do anything to save her. I'm going to skip the last paragraph because it doesn't matter. Holy shit.
Right.
Do I love this premise. Just the idea that, like, these three exes they're just going to fuck up this bad dude. Speaks to my soul. And it's really, really good. I'm just starting to get into that one as well. I have gone back to an old pattern in my life, which is that I can't just read one book at a time right now. I think that's my pandemic damage, is that I bounce between books. But just, there's something really appealing to me about, like, girl gangs or, like, girls banding together to fuck up a bad dude. Or it doesn't even have to be girls. It can be old women. Like, I think we talked about that Courtney Milan romance where it's
right.
two older women.
Right.
Incomparable. Oh, I'm the worst. I'll get the title for you all and put it in the show notes. Because I really loved it. And this is definitely, like, this is not as funny as the Courtney Milan book. This is not funny at all. But it's fabulous. And I cannot wait to see.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what happens with his like, Parker. Like, how they're going to save Parker. Do they turn her? Like, what happens when you're a vampire and a normal person and they age and you're stuck in adolescence? I mean, how does that work?
I don't know. They've only just met, though. And already I'm like, ooh. What's going to happen? So if this ends up being really good, I mean, this or
right, the Headmistress.
My brain is not here today for words. Yes, if this or the Headmistress turn out to be good, one or both of them may end up being official recommendations. So nice. I will be back. So Kris,
good. Yes.
What is your official recommendation this week?
Okay, so my official recommendation this week is a movie called The Intervention.
What is that? Because it sounds really familiar.
It's from 2016, and this right here is going to give it away. Okay. I picked it because it's directed by Clea Duvall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. She also stars in the movie alongside Melanie Linsky, I think is how you pronounce her name, and Natasha Lyonne. Come on! How do we know those names?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do you see where this is going?
Well, I know that Clea Duvall and Natasha Lyonne were in But I'm a Cheerleader together.
Yes, and so was Melanie.
Oh, was she?
In it too. Yeah, she's like the girl that introduces Natasha around. And she's got the glasses.
I can't remember that, but I mean, I think if she's who I think she is, does she have this, like, really sweet, almost baby voice? And
yes,
kind of like
yes,
a bit of a baby
that's her.
face?
Yes,
okay,
yes. Okay, yes. So it's funny because after I finished the intervention, then I started But I'm a Cheerleader. Just
Yay!
Because it was like I have this thing where if people are in movies and then I see them in movies later, whether it's like a previous movie or a future movie, like I get all nostalgic and I'm like, oh my God, this is so great. And it could be like the worst thing and I will still watch it because, like, my little heart's happy.
Yeah.
So
fair.
Yes. So here's the movie synopsis. A weekend getaway for 4 couples takes a sharp turn when one of the couples discovers the entire trip was orchestrated to host an intervention on their marriage. So, first of all, right, like, who doesn't love a weekend getaway with friends? I mean, it's been forever, but like, I don't know if you've been on many. And I have been on several, and I always feel like there's always a couple who fights. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But
that's
I feel
Tyler
like
Perry movies tell us.
Exactly. And this is a true thing. So, everyone pretends it's normal and they walk around on eggshells, So basically this movie is like the Big Chill was for, like, baby boomers and late Gen Xers. This is the Big Chill millennial version.
Minus the trying to impregnate your friend.
And minus the incredible soundtrack that came with the Good Chill.
Oh,
but
yeah.
That was
an
amazing
such a
soundtrack.
good soundtrack. Yeah.
Okay. So Let me tell you about the characters real quick.
Okay.
The couples. There are 4 couples on this weekend getaway trip. And you have Peter and Ruby, and they're the main couple. They're the couple that everybody wants to do this intervention on. I wanted in on the intervention because they were horrible to each other. Like, they were awful. And, like, they cringe. I mean, I cringed every time I saw them because you just knew that once one of them opened their mouths, it was going to be bitchy and hateful. And I was, like, in. I was down for the whole intervention.
Yep.
And then you have the lesbian, I quote, lesbian couple, Sarah and Jesse. They're there to help this whole intervention. They've been together 3 years, and but they don't live together. Like, Jesse has, like, this commitment issue thing. So she doesn't want that. And then there's another couple, and I'm going to call them the fresh couple because it's Jack, who has been friends with this group forever. He brings along this 22-year-old new girlfriend. And everybody's jealous of her because she's young and she's carefree and she's sexual and
what's
like,
her
always
damage?
Like, yes. So they're like, hey, put on a shirt. Why don't you put on a full-length shirt? You know, because she always wears these crop tops and she's just like cutesy, sexy. And the final couple is the engaged couple who actually Annie and Matt. And Annie's the one who decided to call this intervention on her friend.
No.
So basically what comes to light is that each couple has their own set of serious problems. You know, but I think that's life. I think, you know, we all have, everybody thinks like the couple next to you is perfect, but they're really not, because everybody just has problems. So like Annie thinks that like the big problem is her friend's marriage, whereas Annie drinks a lot, like a ton. Yeah. And so so it's kind of interesting how at the end the intervention kind of switches. So the pros and cons about this movie, like one pro and con is that it's the same thing. So like they bring alcoholism to light. And one of the characters is an alcoholic, obviously. But then there's a lot of alcohol in the whole thing. A lot of alcohol. Even I was like, oh my gosh, that's way too much alcohol for being around an alcoholic. The one thing I didn't like about that in that regard is that they asked her to not drink. They're like, look, you're drinking all the time. You have a lot of alcohol in the morning, noon, night. Day drinking, morning drinking, everything. And so they switch her to water, but yeah, everybody is still drinking wine and scotch and whiskey. And I'm just like, you know, if you're going to do that, you know, you hide the alcohol. Let's
Bad
all
friends.
have this. Yes. So I had an issue with that, but I loved the queer couple in this movie. Like, I loved them so much. Their problems felt like real queer problems.
Oh.
Yeah. So they go to get the rental car, and one of the guys at the rental car, he starts flirting with Sarah and tries to pick her up right in front of Jesse, and nobody says anything. Like, she's just like, oh, that's so nice. And like Jesse sits there and she's like, okay, whatever, because that happens. You know, I mean, if you know, people, a lot of queers who, I don't know if they, you know, look straight or whatever, if they get hit on, but it's not like people don't feel threatened, like their significant other doesn't feel threatened because, of course, you know, they're not into them or whatever. It's interesting because when the movie finally, like, everything comes to head, everybody starts fighting and arguing. It comes out that Lola, who is in the fun new, she's the young girl, the 22-year-old, she actually kisses Jesse.
No.
And they get caught. But Jesse's not kissing her back. And so then it comes to, so then Sarah finds out about it, and they have this huge, massive fight. And she's like, you know what? I didn't say anything when that guy was hitting on you at the counter. And Lola, I didn't kiss her back, but it made me feel good. I felt good again. You know, I had somebody giving me attention. And I think that that's a real thing. I think when people get into a relationship, that sometimes it can become stagnant. And so they, like, got it all out. Hey, you know, this is how I feel. And so it was kind of interesting to see this whole blow up. And then the other one's like, I want to sleep with a man. I miss sleeping with men. Yeah. So they worked through it. And somebody's like, okay, hold on. Do you really want to break up with her because of the kiss. And like, no. Okay, so then let's just talk this through. So they like really focused on communication, and so the queer relationship survives. You know, they talk it through. And so I thought it was really nice. It was nice to see a big recognizable cast with queer leads, you know, because there's 4 couples. So yeah, so I recommend it for that reason, because it's kind of fun to see that relationship and talk about real problems that exist. And, you know, the same things happen in heterosexual relationships that happen in queer relationships. I mean, it's just a relationship, and they bring it to light. And I really thought that was important. And plus it was kind of a, you know, all in all, it was a good movie.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but they lacked the music that The Big Chill had. So I'm just saying.
So just play the Big Chill soundtrack in the background
when you're watching this.
While you're watching
this
movie.
It's a great movie. Because I'm all about music. We know this about me. I love good music. So anyway, that was my recommendation. What is your big recommendation for this week?
So I think we've talked before about how I don't generally watch a ton of TV, but I finished Schitt's Creek because, you know, I had been holding off on finishing Schitt's Creek because I didn't want it to end. And then I couldn't go anywhere because we all got COVID. So it was kind of one of those, well, if not now, when? So I finished it and I was like, oh shit, I need something else. And then I watched an entire series, all 4 seasons.
Oh my God.
In the time since the last episode recorded and this episode.
Oh my God.
And that show is The Good Place, starring Kristen Bell, Ted Danson, Jamila Jamil, and I cannot remember the names of anybody else.
It's because you like binge watched it like super fast. Because I binge watched.
I did. Well, I couldn't go anywhere. What was I gonna do?
That's amazing.
And so there are 4 seasons, and actually they're pretty short seasons, right? They're only 22-minute episodes. Oh, and there's like 10 to 12 episodes per season. And it's not just about, it opens with this woman, Eleanor, played by Kristen Bell. She wakes up and Ted Danson says, Eleanor, you've died and you're in the good place. And kind of by the end of the episode, she realizes she shouldn't actually be there. And so the man she's told is her soulmate, Chidi, he's a moral philosopher. And when she tells him, he kind of starts to freak out. And she's like, well, hang on, but you know all about how to be good. So how about you help me and I'll just become a better person and I'll earn my way into being here. And it's a really funny show, but it's also an incredibly thoughtful show. Because like I said, Chidi is a moral philosopher. And so moral philosophy is actually something that kind of carries through all 4 seasons. And if you would have told me before I watched this that I would love a sitcom that is like packed full of moral philosophy, I would have been like, go away. Because philosophy has never really been my thing. And yet it's so like, it's clever and funny and thoughtful and makes you feel all the feelings sometimes, because at the core of it really is that question of what makes people good? How do we be good people? Can somebody who's not good become good? Or can somebody who's like kind of good become more good? And one of the things that I also really loved about it, which is why it's relevant for this show, is that Eleanor is canonically bisexual. And it's no big deal. You know, we see her make somewhat inappropriate comments about how she's attracted to certain other women there, or has been in the past. And, you know, she hits on Jamila Jamil's character relatively frequently. But like, I liked seeing a character who just talks about their attraction to anybody, kind of where gender doesn't seem to be that big of a deal in it. So, I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe she's pansexual, maybe she's not bisexual. Again, she doesn't declare it, but it doesn't matter. It's not, labels aren't really relevant there. And it's just so good. The other thing is that like that finale, I remember seeing Twitter go nuts about the finale. And the thing that really impressed me is that nobody talked about why it was incredible.
Okay. Don't ruin it for us.
I'm not going to. I'm gonna do the same thing that Twitter did, or that all the people that I follow on Twitter did anyway. They all just talked about how it was such a good ending. And it is. It is probably the best finale I've ever seen in a TV show. Because finales are hard to do. You know, there are high expectations. And I mean, I remember how pissed off everybody was at the finale for Seinfeld.
Oh,
because there were such high expectations. And then even much more recently, like, how about that Game of Thrones finale? Nobody was happy.
I know, I watched it.
With how Game of Thrones ended. But with The Good Place, it was just perfect. It was so... I cried. A lot.
Aww.
And even the next day thinking about it, it was just so... I'm making hand gestures that only Kris can see. That makes no sense for anybody listening.
Like Muppet hands. She's like doing Muppet something.
Yeah.
Are you keeping the tears in right now?
Yeah. A little
bit.
It's so good. And I was going to say something else. And I know what it was. Oh. So it is actually kind of the perfect show to watch back to back with Schitt's Creek. And I don't think it matters which one you watch first and which one you watch second, because neither of them have anything to do with each other. But where they're both really similar is that it takes people who are kind of shitty, because we see Eleanor as like what she was like when she was alive on Earth. And she was kind of a shitty person. You know, she worked at a multi-level marketing company selling bogus pills to seniors to try to like bilk them of their money. Like, or she would be the designated driver for her friends group, and then she'd get hammered so she couldn't drive them. Like, just, she was a jerk. Just like at the beginning of Schitt's Creek, you know, these like wealthy, entitled monsters, and how they're, so while she ends up dying, you know, they end up going to a town where they probably wish they were dead because it's so far in the middle of nowhere. And you see that, like, they both have that trajectory of like learning how to be good, and they both ended, I want to say too soon, but actually it's kind of perfect, because they both ended at like the height of their popularity. They could have gone, either series could have gone so much further. They could have gotten so much more material out of there. And what they did instead was they ended it beautifully in a way that left people wanting more, but acknowledging that what they got was just right.
Yeah.
So
I love it. I love it when a TV series gets it right. I mean, Brooklyn Nine-Nine ended last week, I think, and I got teary-eyed too, because I always thought that was such a fun show. I really enjoyed it. And actually, my ringtone was Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I switched it. What is it now? Oh, it's Game of Thrones. I'm worthless. And also another like Newhart. You're probably too young for Newhart, as am I. But but Newhart had a fantastic ending. And I think I mentioned that my friend at work is going through the seasons now. He's in his 70s, and he watched the Newhart show and then never got into Newhart when it came out, because it was like in the 80s, and he runs an inn. And so the finale, I'm waiting for him to call me and tell me he finally finished, because it's like 8 seasons, and they're big, you know, episodes. And he's not like us, where we can sit and binge like a season in one day. So he's not like that. He like watches maybe 1 or 2 episodes a week, and I'm like, we're never going to get to the ending. But I really want to talk to him about this ending. So, but that's good. And I love I watched, I started The Good Place, and I think I watched it when it was on TV, and I watched it because she wasn't allowed to curse.
Yes.
So she's not allowed to cuss or curse.
It's so funny. Yeah.
It's like, fork you, and all the different ways to say fuck, but can't really get away with saying it.
Forker, shirt balls. Yeah.
I think it's hilarious. Yeah. So I had started it, but I will probably finish it, especially now that you've recommended it. I will finish it. And I will let you know if I cry on the ending, which I'm sure I will, because you and I are both criers.
Oh my God. Yeah, I didn't think I was a crier. And then it's like, well, I have too much evidence to the contrary.
I'm a crier. Yes, you are.
Yeah, it's happened. All right. That is all for this episode. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, for listening. If you've enjoyed this show, please make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Wherever you listen to your podcast, you'll get notified whenever we release an episode. Like I mentioned, if you feel so inclined to support us through Ko-fi, there's a link there. If not, absolutely no big deal. But if you do have a friend that you think would like the show, somebody who's looking for queer media recommendations, please let them know all about it. Because honestly, that's the main thing. We just want to connect more people with the queer media that they want to be able to find.
Right. And also reviews. It's cute because every time Tara and I start, we look at our reviews to see if we have any more. And we haven't had any in a little bit, right? It's been a while. Reviews would be great. It makes us happy every time we start recording. So if you could throw a review up, that would be great. I would love it, and so would Tara.
Yeah.
And always, if you want to connect with us on your favorite social media sites, just search for Queerly Recommended on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or you can email us at podcast@queerlyrecommended.com. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Through writing. I know that book forward and backward.
What scene are you going to read?
And that's just it. I don't know because
it's filthy.
I know it is. I have to read it in front of a bunch
Maddie,
of people.
You gotta go.
And
no, Maddie, I'm recording a podcast. You gotta go. All right, come around here and say hi to Kris, and then you gotta go. And if you don't go, then I'll text Daddy to come and get you.
Uh-oh. Hi.
Kris can't hear you, though, because of the headphone situation, so you can wave. Yeah, you gotta go. No, Mommy does a lot of swearing when we do this. Mm-hmm. We use a lot of grown-up words.
So do I.
Well, she can't hear you, at least, because I have the headphones.
Okay.
All right, let's text Neil. Please come and get Maddie. I told you that if you didn't go, then I was going to text Daddy and get him to come and get you. Right?
I just don't want to wait for us to play together.
Well, you have to wait for us to play together.